Hey, y'all, hey, I'm going to pass this over to Tony.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our chat. We will be, we have a little helper today. He's not too thrilled about being here. But today, one of the things we're going to talk about, or tonight, one of the things we're going to talk about is what to do when your traffic is plateauing, or your site in general, Facebook, any of your social media, as well as, what to do when you're just feeling burnout and want to walk away from it all. Don't do it. Even if you are burnt out, there's lots of things that you can do, and don't get discouraged if you're at a plateau because we've all had it happen to us. So we're going to just share some tips, and I don't know if the baby's going to be around to help us or not, so we'll see. His dad's at the Final Four game, so if we can get more than 2 people on this chat, it'll be awesome. Everyone's probably watching the game tonight, but if you're not, we're here and we're talking. So I'm going to let Andrea start. She has been she's been at this a long time, like most of us have, and has really been through a lot with her site and rebranding, and then going through different phases. So I'll let her kick it off, just talking a little bit about how to handle those different things that can happen in your business.
Hey everyone, yeah, I have one eye on the game right now too. So we chose a bad night. But, so thinking about the plateaus and burnout, and speaking personally, I wanted to talk a little bit about burnout and some of the things that I have experienced and what has helped me get through that. The first and foremost, obviously, is having a good support system. So, knowing that you have, a network, whether they're bloggers or other people in the digital space, maybe they're people in your real life that you can actually physically touch. But just having someone that you can actually go talk to and experience life with and, get through things, I think that has helped me tremendously whenever I'm having one of those days where I'm like, you know what, I can't really do anything else anymore. And it also kind of rejuvenates you, because you hear, when I get to hear about the exciting things that Tony and Aaron are working on, and, I also talk a lot with Brianna, Marcy, and Mindy, and when I'm hearing what they're doing in their business, kind of what they're doing to change up content, I trust all of those people. It kind of inspires me to say, you know what, let me think about it in a different way. Maybe I do take a break. Or actually, what I really found has been helpful has been going back to the editorial calendar. And I don't know if Heather Shaw's on here tonight, but she mentioned something about getting pitches for back to school already, and we're only in April. And I'm like, I have my content planned out through February 2015 now, because what's happening is that I'm finding different ideas to post, but I'm not going to post it now. So I'm saying, okay, where can I put that in my editorial calendar for next year? Because I have my calendar already pretty much filled up for this year. So I'm just putting those ideas in there for next year. I don't feel pressured to publish those things right now, and I won't let myself feel the pressure for doing that. So I think when you're facing a burnout, it is really helpful to refer to your editorial calendar, stick to your editorial calendar, try to take a weekend if you have to, and schedule out as far in advance as you can. That's one of the things that's been helpful for me in working with, some of the other companies that I'm working with, is that I can schedule my evergreen content out for 2 months. Right now I'm scheduled out through the end of May. And so that's helpful, so I can just not even have to focus maybe just a couple hours a week on the site, and then I know that there's going to be content out there no matter what happens, so I can focus on other things too. And that also helps me know that, I don't have to feel pressured at night to be like, oh, I have to get this post up. I won't take a sponsored post unless it's something that's extremely lucrative for me, if it's going to take time away from my family. And so that's one of my general rules now, because I feel like if I do anything else like that, then I will get burnt out. And I'm just at a place right now where, I'm trying to figure out what's the next move for me and my blog, and the editorial calendar is something that is really good to be able to fall back on, because I know that no matter what I change or what I try to do, that is always that content's going to be out there and be planned and ready to go, so I can test things out too.
I think those are great points. I love the editorial calendar. I feel like that's really helpful when you kind of get tired of blogging, and it allows you to really think about strategy long term, because I think sometimes we can get caught up in the day-to-day, and being able to get that long-range planning and be thinking about 6 months, 12 months down the road helps us move through maybe a bad week or a bad month. I also think if you have well, everyone should have an editorial calendar, but use that as a way to help you avoid repetitive plateaus. So if you notice that every summer your traffic dives, or and it also really depends on what you're blogging about, because we all know that if you're a coupon or deal blogger, your traffic is crazy in the fall when people are shopping and Christmas and sometimes the back to school, and you might have those plateaus in the spring. Food bloggers tend to also peak during the holidays as well. People are looking for recipes. People who blog about kids and fun things to do, their traffic might be spiking during spring break, summer. But be looking at your editorial calendar from years past to figure out, if you did plateau in certain months of the year, what were you writing about? What was the content going up on your site during that period a year, 2 years ago? And which of those posts were not getting the interaction that you felt like they needed to get? And maybe that's a good way to also want to change your strategy and make some changes to your site to avoid that year after year. And it might be that you just realize that you're never going to have good traffic in March, and that's okay. And so when that happens to you, you don't get upset about it, or you don't feel burnt out, or you're not discouraged, or you don't want to walk away. You just realize it's part of the business, just like a brick and mortar store would maybe have better months than others. But if it is something that you want to change, then it's definitely something you should be looking into, and using that editorial calendar post and, what is it, future and past? There we go, future and past, to help you, avoid some of the pitfalls. Is the baby off mute?
He's off mute, guys. I'm so sorry. My husband really wanted to go out with the guys to watch the game, so I said, "Go ahead, we'll make this work." So, thanks for your patience. And no, I wanted to add 2 things too. I think with burnout, one of the key things is identifying what's maybe causing your burnout. What is stressing you out the most? Is it something that you can delegate to somebody else if you're not at a point in your business where you can? Oh, is that right? You have lots to say, huh? When you can, maybe pay someone to help you, a virtual assistant, or maybe there's somebody you could trade. Maybe it's trading content. Maybe it's mixing up content and thinking beyond what you're currently doing. Maybe it's that you're just in a rut with this, doing the same thing over and over. And, maybe you need to tap a little bit more into your creative juices and get more creative, with the content on your site, or switch up the type of content or the day you're even posting it. Just to kind of change up routine can be helpful too, I think, with burnout. And I think another thing, I remember hearing this a long time ago, was get outside. Like, get out from behind your computer when you're burnout. Like, take the day off. Your traffic's not going to go anywhere. Your readers aren't going anywhere. Just get away for a little bit, whatever that may be. I remember when I was pregnant with this character, I wanted to go to the beach so badly. I don't know if you guys remember that, but I just all the time was talking about I just need to go sit on the beach for a little bit. And I think that that was like my reaction. That's what I wanted to do when I was feeling, I don't know that burnt out was the right word, but just kind of spread too thin, and I just need to get away for a day. And my reaction to get away from the computer is to go to the beach, right? So I did get that beach day in there at some point, but so I think you just have to, be identifying what's, causing you to kind of overstress or get in that rut, and what can you do to change it up, and what can you do to, delegate or share and whatever that task is that's really causing, you think could be the cause of your burnout, just to keep things kind of fresh and moving in your business and with your content.
Now, one of the questions that I think Christy is who asked this question in the lab, but getting through the plateau, she said, I feel like I've been at the same traffic level for years or whatever for a long time, and how do I get past that? And, that's actually a really good question that I don't think anybody has that perfect answer to, but one of the things that I have found helpful is really just, trying to set yourself apart in a way that, everybody has recipes. And, I'm going to refer to Erin's Costco thing quite a bit, because Erin is a food blogger, but honestly, anybody could have easily have done that, right? I mean, Erin used her own recipes, which was smart, of course, but anybody could have easily have created that concept, but Erin did it. And so that obviously brought tons of traffic to her site. And, I don't think she had a plateau or anything that she was dealing with, but that was a very innovative idea that nobody else was doing, and you didn't have to be a food blogger to do it, but she did it. And so, I've tried to do similar things in the past where, I've created custom developed tools to have on my site where, nobody else is really doing it, or they're doing it in different ways, but not exactly the way that I've done it. And that has helped in some ways. And then also in other ways, to be very honest, it's like, yeah, whatever, it's not really what they want. So figure out exactly what your readers want, and then really just allow yourself time to be creative and brainstorm things that you could do to provide more value to them. So it's about solving a problem, and it may be that they don't even know what that problem is yet, but you're solving a problem for them that, is going to make your site and your content more valuable, therefore making them want to come visit more, therefore making them want to share the content more. So
I think, Andrew, you had a lot of good points in that. I think something else to think about is that we all have our blogging groups and people that we cross-promote and hang out with, and people that we consult with not on a paid basis, but our groups of bloggers that we've partnered with over the years. And I think one thing that can really help you is to get out of those groups, not leave the groups, but go out of your circle. Work with different bloggers. Work with bloggers that you don't know very well, or that you haven't worked with before. Bloggers maybe in a completely different niche that might have some crossover potential. I know a couple years ago I partnered with 5 or 10 bloggers to put together this ebook. It was very easy. We each wrote basically one chapter, and it was a great traffic booster. It introduced a lot of new people to our sites. There were several people in there that I had never ever worked with before, and people that I had either admired, or their blogs were in my reader, or I liked them on Facebook. But I think going out of our circle can sometimes be very helpful for us, because I think that's part of the reason why we can plateau, is it's the same people promoting the same content from the same blogs all the time, and being able to break out. And I think one of the advantages that I've had over the past year is that working a couple of my consulting jobs, I've been meeting bloggers that I had no idea these people existed before. And I feel like I know a lot of bloggers, and I feel like I work with a lot of bloggers. But now that I'm being exposed to, just hundreds and hundreds of quality, excellent blogs that I think are great reads, their photos are amazing, they're putting out great content, but they're just so out of my circle and my niche that I never heard of them before. I met them at an event or at, some sort of online thing. But I think that's really important, is to get a new, not replacement group, but just work with new people. And even if it's just like a new mastermind group, or even something like hiring coaching. I think one of the things that I found in doing coaching with other bloggers is that things that I see very quickly on their sites, they don't see at all, because it's, and the same thing with my own site. You look at your own site every day, you're in the dashboard every day, you sort of become blind to a lot of things, or you don't even think that maybe they're not working and they really aren't working for you. And you get a fresh perspective in there from a blogger who doesn't spend a lot of time on your site, and you'll be amazed at the feedback you can get from them, and real valuable input and ideas that once they tell you, it's one of those, oh, how did I not think of this before? But in reality, it's really just because you're too close to the situation. And I think getting some sort of outside opinion or outside help is really worth it, even if you're paying for it. That sort of help is not that expensive. And so it could be worth it to sort of put you to a different point in your business, or just give you a different perspective on what you're doing.
That's actually a really good point to talk with those other bloggers, because I think it could even go beyond like the site analysis and in asking them, maybe it's a fashion blogger, and you could tell them, like, you know what, this is kind of what I need. This is what I would need if I were going to read a site with your kind of content. I would love this type of idea. That one site, I don't even know if they post on it anymore, but it's been a few years, but it was Hair Thursday, where she posted, had a reader, submit like an idea for a makeover, and asking for recommendations, and then she would take that and say, okay, this is what I think you should do. To me, I'm like, that's genius, because if I'm going to read a blog about fashion and beauty or whatever, I would love that kind of content. And so maybe asking other people that follow the topic that you're talking about, like, well, what do you find most helpful? And maybe they're not reading your site. Maybe you don't want them to read your site to know. Maybe you don't want them to read any kind of sites like yours to know, like, what ideas would you have? What things would be helpful for you? That way you can kind of look at it in a fresh way, too, to say, oh, well, I never really thought of that. You know, like, oh, you don't understand anything about budgeting? Well, maybe I can help you create a tool like that. Maybe they don't like Dave Ramsey. You know, not everybody likes Dave. So, you know, just figuring out what types of things that you can create and add to your site that goes back to, again, adding more value. And, you know, there's no guarantee that any of that stuff is ever going to create, like, millions and billions of page views. I would honestly think a lot of the people that I see that have high traffic like that have gotten lucky. They've been in the right place, right time. Their content is no better than anybody else's content, in my view, but they just got lucky, or they got on the front of Yahoo or MSN or whatever it was. So, you know, talking to someone who's actually kind of scraped their way up to figure it all out, those are the people that I want to, like, those are the people that I want to talk to. Like, what have you done that's actually worked? Because you tell me you're getting millions of page views because you were on, you know, the front of Google. Well, no duh, that's going to happen, isn't it? I mean, come on, give me a break.
I think, too, yeah, I mean, and I think there's something to be said about getting lucky, and you know, we all want it, so no harm to those who get it. But yeah, put me on Huffington Post, put me on Yahoo Finance any day of the week. I'll be very happy. I think something to think about too is we all get in a rut. We all have our Facebook posting schedule, our, you know, auto feed to Twitter, whatever, you know, whatever we're doing. Think about completely changing your strategy. I mean, if you're at a point where you're just like, I'm at a make or break. If I continue to stay at this traffic level for another 6 months, it's not worth my time anymore. Try something radically different. Are you frequently pitching radio, TV, newspaper in your local area? Are you going out? I mean, I just this weekend, I spent the weekend with Jenny from Southern Savers, who will attribute the growth of her site to her teaching coupon classes in the South. And she still teaches coupon classes every single weekend. She's still out there doing that 5 years later. Why? Because it works for her. It's grown her site into a very, very successful business. But that's something that's different, right? Not everybody's out there teaching coupon classes, or maybe they're teaching DIY classes, or maybe you're doing fashion things. Maybe you're hitting up the MOPS groups. You know, whatever your blog is about, there's a place for you to go out and do some word-of-mouth marketing, do some feet-on-the-ground marketing. But, you know, change it up. Maybe you just don't need to auto-feed to Twitter anymore. Maybe you try doing something completely different on Twitter. Maybe you give it up altogether. Right now we're testing. I was hit by the whole Facebook hates me, you know, issue in last year, and we just stopped putting time and money into it. And then all of a sudden things seem to have shifted a little bit. I read a couple articles. I made some very small changes, and we've seen some good results. So now we're completely redoing our Facebook strategy. So I think that, you know, it's easy to do the same things over and over, but then don't be surprised that you're getting the same results. And maybe it's time for some really radical changes to your site. Maybe you do a site redesign. That's more expensive. You probably need to consider the cost of that before you decide to do it. Maybe you just say, I'm going to blog twice a week and I'm going to start creating products. Maybe I'm going to invest my time into podcasts. Maybe I'm going to go after podcast advertising. There's just so many revenue channels and opportunities in the digital space that I would say, you know, if what you're doing right now isn't working, consider some sort of radical change and see what happens. And if, you know, if it doesn't work, usually you're not out a ton of money. You're just out time.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on that and say, you know, put on a new pair of glasses. They're called the new reader glasses. Pretend that you're coming to your site for the very first time, and what do you experience? I mean, you see your own site all the time. So what does it look like? Where are the buttons? Where are you naturally drawn to click? Like, kind of create your own heat map if you don't want to, you know, pay for a really good solid one, you know, that you can really make some good decisions on. You know, what is the user experience like for a reader when they come to your site? What do they, you know, where do you want them to go? Are you effectively creating that, you know, funnel, or that, are you driving them to where you want to go? If you have $5 dinners has an extremely high bounce rate. It always has a lot of traffic, but it's very bouncy traffic because people typically come for a recipe, they find what they want, and then they go to the next thing, which is fine. I think that's partly the nature of a food blog. But there are some things that I can and still do test and move around and play with to try to keep that bounce rate at a, I guess, reasonable level, you know, for me. and just trying to make that experience. Where do you want them after they come to a recipe? What do I want them to do next? Do I want them to like me on Pinterest or follow me on Pinterest? Do I want them to come see us on Facebook? Do I want them to go to the cookbook pages? Like, where do you want them to go, and what do you want that experience to be? And maybe even come at your site from a few different angles. Like, the first time you look at it, you're drawn to this particular section. The second time you look at it, you're drawn right into the content in the center. What is that experience like? Is it pleasant? Can they read the text? I don't know how many times I've been on a site for whatever reason. I don't do a whole lot of website and blog surfing, but I immediately click off because I can't read the font, the headline font. Even if the headline font, you can't read it, I'm just like, goodbye. I'll go find what I was looking for somewhere else. So that kind of touches on what Tony was just saying about design and what it looks like too. So I think that and talking a little bit too about what can you do to get people to click deeper into your site. What changes can you make? Is that a related post plugin? Is that just more organic linking to older content? What does that mean for you? That's going to help increase, better your bounce rate so that you'll have more traffic, right? So I think that those are a couple things to consider as well. So go grab that pair of glasses wherever they may be. And sometime this week or this weekend, when you have a few extra minutes to take a look at your own site, do that, and just kind of naturally click. Where will you end up? Where will you find yourself? I think especially in our community, there's so much content, so much type of content. Even though it's all, and let's say the deals or the homeschool, that's pretty niche focused. We're not, blogging about everything under the sun. Well, maybe some people are, but even still, that's a lot to fish through. Where do people naturally fall? Sorry, he has a checks box down here. This is getting real interesting. Where do they naturally go? Are you wanting them to go to your printable coupons page, but they accidentally end up over here in your whatever other page it may be? So take a look at that on your site and see if there are some small changes that you can make. I think you can make small changes and drastic changes, but I think the key is watching what happens when you do make the changes. To both traffic and revenue. I think that if your traffic has plateaued but your revenue is still increasing, that's not so bad. Obviously, we want traffic to increase, but I think there's also things, and we've talked about those in other Hangouts, of what you can do to help increase your revenue, regardless of what your traffic is doing. So,
I think too, something to think about, and this is a little bit different. So I had this ridiculously long drive this weekend and was kicking myself the whole time that I wasn't flying because I couldn't get anything done in the car. But what I decided to do was listen to podcasts from some of our favorite bloggers. So I was listening to Pat Flynn and Jim Wang, and there was a great interview with J.D. Roth, who, as you all know, if you know us, we've been working with him for several years. But he was interviewed, and one of the things that he talked about was good writing. And I know for a lot of us, we don't do a ton of content writing, but I think everyone is trying to do more of it. And he made some really great points about just content in general and content creation, and doing things like writing your post and then walking away from it for a couple days and coming back and reading it, reading your post out loud, because that catches a lot of issues where you forget to put in a word or you use the wrong word that won't get spell checked because it's still a real word. And I think another thing that people can focus on is writing better and just becoming a better writer, because at the end of the day, there are a lot of blogs out there and there's a ton of competition, and if you're not a great writer, then people are going to read another site with better writing eventually, unless you're just super funny or you're just so amazing that they can overlook some of the errors. I think improving writing is a great technique that people can use to keep people on their site longer. I mean, that's frustrating when you start reading a post and it's just not well written, even though it might be interesting. After a while, you're probably not going to come back to that site. So things like, if you are trying to put more content out there, really, and I think we all do this, we write the post and publish because we want to get it up there, and we're writing it because we want to get something up there right away. And we rarely write something and sit on it, or write something and even do a lot of editing. And I think if you think about all of the magazines and digital magazine publications, they write and they edit and they edit and they edit before that thing actually gets published. And as bloggers, we don't do that very often. And same with your photos. Take more time, spend more time photo editing. There's so many, I mean, PicMonkey, free. You know, you don't have to get expensive photo editing software, but work on doing things like improving your photos, improving your writing. improving your copy on social media. But all those things are free. They're easy to do. Well, maybe not easy, but they're things that people can do and could make a big change in, like Aaron said, keeping people on your site longer or just drawing new people to your site because people love how you write or they just love the quality of the content.
I will say, I don't know if any of you follow the blog, food blog Paleo MG. It's a paleo food blog, but I love her. She tells amazing stories with each recipe, and so it's all about that storytelling. So she'll make this recipe, great recipe, but then she tells this entire story beforehand, and she doesn't fill up her post with 5 billion pictures either. But she tells a great story, and so I'm immediately drawn to her site because of the story, whatever she's going to tell. Sometimes she's all over the place, but there's always a story there that I want to hear that goes along with whatever recipe she's sharing. So even if you're writing a recipe or, like this is something that I personally do not do that, I wish I want to have more time to do it, but a craft, whatever it is, if you're writing something, share about, how you made this recipe and it was your mother-in-law's recipe that was handed down from her mom, whatever it might be, that's going to draw somebody into the story. And then when they think about, oh, I'm really looking for this fill in the blank, and they're going to be like, I remember that story, I remember that blog, I'm going to go back there and I'm going to find that recipe, that craft, whatever, because I remember that story.
I think, too, that's a great point, Andrea, and I think, and JD talked a lot about that, too, on his podcast, was the storytelling element, because that's one way that you really set yourself apart from other bloggers and create those loyal readers. So my littlest one just turned 5 last week, and I just put a little something out there on Facebook about her turning 5, and, people flooded, the comments flooded in, I remember when you had her, I've been reading your blog since she was born. It doesn't have to be a baby. Don't have a baby so people read your blog. But, or you can. I'm no judging. Get people to connect with you. Have people have that moment where they say, I remember when I found Savings Lifestyle. I remember her as Mommy Snacks. I found her because of this post. Get that moment with people. And that's a way where even if people maybe drift off and they don't stay as loyal, you can always bring them back in because they have that connection to you. So think about that when you're writing, when you're telling stories, and how you can incorporate storytelling into content posts, recipes, crafts. Maybe it's as Andrea said, maybe it's a great thing from your grandmother or whoever. But incorporate that into your post to get people that personal connection, because truly that's what sets blogs apart from, let's just say, Real Simple Online or Better Homes and Gardens or any of those, is that it's a personal connection with the readers. And so you want to try to develop that, and it takes time, and it takes a lot of effort, and it takes you being willing to give a part of yourself online. But I think at the end of the day, that's why people prefer blogs over some of them. I mean, people are still reading the magazines online, of course, but that's why people prefer to read blogs, because they love that personal touch and that storytelling.
And even in the magazines, if you think about it, don't you really like the personal stories, whether it's a success story, whatever it might be, a weight loss story, whatever it is? Those are the things that I enjoy the most in the magazines too. And by the way, Tony, I do remember when you had Cora. I remember specifically like all of the health scare that you had. I remember being on Twitter. It's like as soon as I saw that picture, I immediately flashed back to Twitter and knowing that you were in the hospital after you had her, and it's pretty like serious. And I remember being on Twitter and chatting with you on Twitter when you were okay to talk. And that's probably around the same time when we really started becoming good friends. So
yeah, it's right about that time, because we met right before we met when I was pregnant with her.
Right.
But and speaking of Blistum, even though they are not around anymore, I wanted to add this too. Something that I think really can help you sort of break through traffic lulls and plateaus would be attending events. And obviously we have a great event that you can attend at Digital CoLab in San Diego. But I think not just our event, there's lots of great events out there. One of the things that Andrea and I did last year was attend the World Domination Summit in Portland, which is not even a blog event, but it really was inspiring, and the speakers were great. But what was really great was meeting people completely outside of our world and being able to just talk, brainstorm, throw around ideas, be influenced by them, influence them. But I think that's something. And that was an expensive event. I don't even remember. Our plane tickets were like $500. The ticket to the event was $500. The hotel was ridiculous. I don't even know. The whole thing was so expensive. There were no meals. But it was worth going because of the value that it provided and the boost that I feel like I gained for my business, and actually professional and personal, by attending that event. So I would definitely encourage you, if you are considering attending an event or 2 events this year, to really research the ones that you think are going to help you the best for your business and personally, because it's definitely an investment that's well worth it if you're looking to go to the next level or to do something a little bit different.
Yeah, we met a lot of great people at WDS. I mean, the people literally still today that I'm thankful that I got to meet and hang out with.
Yeah, and I think that you never, and I think, the same thing, this fall we went to FinCon, which I don't think any of us had been to before, but meeting bloggers outside of our niche and meeting people that really smart people that, and we're bringing them all to Digital CoLab because we love them so much. And but I think that stuff is valuable, and I think conferences themselves are valuable in the sessions, but I think the true value in the conferences are those lunches, those dinners, those breakfasts where you are sitting with people, sharing ideas, being able to get in those small groups, and really meeting people that you don't necessarily know, but maybe you've heard of them, but they can really benefit you in your business, and you can benefit them.
Or being in the back of a car with someone and being like, what do you do?
Or forcing someone to sit with you on a road trip for 3 hours. Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And now you guys in your road trip, I'm doing a new partnership with one of those guys that was in that car, and I wasn't even there. How about that? Crazy. It's crazy what can happen when you get outside and get to events and get outside of your comfort zone in your box. So cool. Do you guys have any? We've hit the 30-minute mark. I don't want to go too long. Do you guys have anything else to add as far as Plateaus? Any questions? I just peeked a minute ago and didn't see any. Any questions in the chat room? I'm not seeing any.
YouTube chat, so I can't tell you. Sorry.
Let me check. I think that this has been, I don't see any, so I think that this has been really great. It's just nice to kind of, I would encourage everybody to just take a little time off, whenever that may be, whether it's for quarterly planning or even just taking time off to not plan. I know for me, actually I learned this last summer. We moved to San Antonio. I was super pregnant at the end of a summer. Wasn't really going to be getting into a swimming pool, but last summer I learned that getting in the swimming pool for me is like everything just goes away. I don't know what it is about being in the water, and I mean generally I had the baby in hand or somebody swimming to or from me, so I was highly distracted being in the water. But I think that that's just I didn't think about the phone call I had coming up that afternoon, the whatever project I hadn't finished yet, whatever blog post I needed to write. I just didn't think about it. So that kind of became my escape last summer, and I'm really looking forward to getting back in the pool here. Actually, we were in the pool on Friday. It was really great. We had a real warm day. But I think find that sort of place where you can disconnect to help you on the burnout end, and then maybe in those moments when your kind of mind settles out, maybe you'll think of things you need to do, changes small or large that you could make to help with traffic levels, and when you get to that point where you just feel like the growth isn't happening as fast as you want it to.
I think that's the reason why everybody has their best ideas in the shower. It's because we can't take our phones and computers in there with us, so we actually have to disconnect and think. But you're so right, Erin. I remember you in your pool days last summer. I had plenty myself, so I'm not going to pick on you about that. But I totally agree. I mean, even if I think quarterly planning, taking time off. I mean, I complained about this drive this weekend, but honestly, it gave me 7 hours in the car to not be on my computer and not really be on my phone. And so I actually was able to think a lot and not even think about necessarily my business, but just my life planning, family goals, priorities. And I think that's really valuable to walk away. And the other thing is it gives you a lot of perspective. If you're not connected to the phone or the internet, you can actually observe what's going on around you. It gives you a great perspective of your market and allows you to probably be more successful in your business if you're not connected 24/7.
I love it. And now I want to hug my computer so I can hug all of you. This is like a group hug moment. Hey guys, group hug. Okay, so with that, we will close out tonight, and we will be joining you again, same time, same place-ish. Next week, I don't remember our topic, but we will let you know what it is through email and Facebook and all other places. And yeah, thanks for a great chat tonight, gals, from Tony and Andrea and myself. We will see you guys next week.